All right, we are back. Welcome everyone to Scratch Advanced Tips again. Man, it has been a long 3 weeks. My computer broke, and then I had to do some odd jobs over the last couple of weeks. If you are a member of the channel, you would know that I am helping support this new Channel 9 show called Future Fixes, which is going to be shown sometime in October in Australian television. And I cannot wait to show more. But I am back doing Scratch, and I thought I'd log in a little bit early because some people miss out on the start of my lessons. So I better log in a little bit earlier this time, and hopefully make it so that everybody can catch up and chat with me if you want to. Make sure you post something in the chat if you want to talk to me, and of course we'll do some Scratch together. Right, so I am just setting everything up. Feel free to talk to me if you want to. So look at how can I check out my chat using my app? That's what I want to know. Well, I have an idea. Maybe if I log on to my videos, should be live now. I'm not sure if it's posting or not. I don't know if anybody is hearing me. It looks like it's working. Things look like it's working. So I'll just hang around for another 6 more minutes before we get started. Let's go into Scratch and see what kind of fun stuff we can do over here. All right. You can see my computer's a lot more snappy now. It's not as laggy as before, which is great. I like a snappy computer. And of course, if you miss out on any part of the lesson, don't worry. You can send me a message if you want me to clarify something. You can also send me an email. You can put a comment under the video, or you can simply rewatch the replay. Straight after the live stream, you'll be able to rewatch the replay. All right. Just double check to see if my volume is working. And my volume is working, which is great. I wonder why notifications are not firing for some people. It's a bit of a concern. You would think that For members, it would just notify everyone, but it doesn't, which is interesting. Of course, today we're talking about Booleans. Booleans are a kind of data, sort of like a variable in Scratch. But in Scratch, there is no actual Boolean value. Some versions of Scratch do. So some versions of Scratch, like the versions inside Spike Prime, have actual Boolean values. But inside the normal Scratch desktop, the one that we are using now, it has numbers and it has words. It has strings and integers, basically, or floats if you have decimals in your value. And Booleans are important because Booleans are the lightest kind of data type in pretty much all of programming. Booleans are simply a value of true or false. And inside Scratch, if you don't have a Boolean data type, what we do is we use operators to set flags. To set flags if something is equal or not equal to each other. So that's what we are going to go through today. We're going to create a bit of a shooting game because I feel like shooting some things sometimes. I feel a little bit violent. I want to blow up some robots. And that Scratch is perfect for something like that. Excuse me. Still got another 3 or 4 more minutes to get started. More time for people to arrive and chat with me and play with Scratch. How is everyone tonight? Is everyone going okay? I hear some people who are in Year 3 and Year 6 are doing NAPLAN. So hopefully everybody's doing well. A couple of weeks ago, I posted some Python for Teacher courses as well. So those are some of the classes that I've been running with my friends in the USA, in a high school called Hillview High School or something like that in California. So if you really enjoy that, make sure you post a comment on those videos because then I'll be able to know that you enjoy that content and I will post more material on that. All right, it is 7 o'clock in Australia. We are going to get started with building our uber violent shooting robot game. And we are going to learn about Booleans on the way. How's that? Let's get started, okay? First thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of our kitty cat. Going to add our hero, who is going to be a space megastar. I'm going to choose an astronaut. The astronaut is going to be, let's do Kieran. Kieran looks like a cool astronaut. Going to turn this person to 50% size, maybe 30. Nice and small. All right, I want to control this Kieran character using some keyboard events. So how about when the A key is pressed, we're going to move them to the left, change X by -10, well, let's go -20. And then the cool thing about Scratch, doesn't really hint this very often, is that you can go Control-C, Control-V. When you click on a block, okay, I'll do it again. I click on this block. When the A key is pressed, I go Control-C. That copies the blocks that were connected to the block that I clicked on. And then if I go Control-V, it pastes the block. Very useful to make it so that we don't have to keep on repeating the drag and drops, because the drag and drops are a little bit slow. W, so that's A. Let's go D is going to be when the D key is pressed. And then you can see my character is now moving left and right. And then we're going to change the backdrop as well. Let's change the backdrop to make it so that it is in space, because this is going to be a space robot shooter. Gotta make this Kieran astronaut having the time of their lives, floating in the middle of space, defending the Earth, or whatever planet they're from, against evil robots. Okay, so now what are we going to shoot out of our gun? Let's go into choose another sprite. I reckon we can shoot some tiny little suns. Yeah, the sun looks a little bit big right now. It doesn't look like something you would shoot out of a gun. But if I change the size to about 20% of what it is, it looks like a little fireball. So if you watch Dragon Ball Z, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Sort of like a fireball you would launch out of a Dragon Ball Z character's arm, or in our case, Kieran's blaster pistol. Alright, so how does this fireball work? Now that we're inside the fireball, I click on, when flag is clicked, this will instantiate the game, we'll start the game. When we start the game, we're going to hide the original fireball, and then we are going to get it ready to clone itself to start shooting up some robots. So here, when we start, we hide the fireball, make it bigger so that everyone can see. But then, when someone asks me to clone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this clone to the position of Kieran, because that's where we are going to start the journey of this fireball. It's going to launch up the screen and hit whatever poor robot is in the way. When I start as a clone, go to, instead of random position, we go to Kieran. Go to Kieran, and then we're going to repeat something until. We're going to repeat until we touch the edge of the map. Repeat until we are touching the edge of the map. What are we repeating? We are repeating an upward movement. So to move up, if you have a look at the Y position, it increases the Y value. So we're going to repeat changing our Y value to the positive direction until we touch the edge. So change Y by, say, 15. All right, so that's when we start as a clone. But also, remember we hid ourselves right at the start. We're going to have to now unhide ourselves. So it's going to looks, I'm going to show straight after I go to Kieran. That way I'm at Kieran's position when I unhide myself. And then we're going to move the fireball up the screen until we hit the edge of the screen. All right, that's going pretty good so far. Welcome if you just joined the channel, joined the stream. Feel free to comment if I am going too quickly or too slowly. And if you have any questions or if you missed some of it, don't worry. You can always rewatch the replay, okay? Like all of our lessons that are on YouTube for members only, of course. Okay, so for Kieran, we're going to add another key press. We're going to make it so that when the spacebar is pressed, we're going to clone that fireball. So let's have a look at our fireball. Our clone command. Create a clone of the sun. All right. When I hit that flag, now we are going to see the start of this game in action. Okay, hit the flag. Notice that the fireball has disappeared. And I can now control the position of Kieran. As soon as I hit the spacebar, we are shooting. Bang, 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 bang. All right, but now I need to do something because I've made it so that the fireball, when it touches the edge, it stops moving, but I have not deleted it. So I need to go back into the fireball code. How do I do that? I click on the sun again, and then I make it so I repeat until it's touching the edge, and then afterwards, what are we doing? We've got to delete this clone, of course. Got to delete this clone. Reload the game, and now it's working perfectly. Okay. It's looking good. Now we're going to make it so that we add some baddies to the screen. Okay, let's add some baddies. Let's make some of these evil robots that are in space that really need to be blown up. I'm gonna make these retro robots. They're a bit big. I don't want them to be so big. I'll make them a little bit smaller. Let's say a size 30. Size 30 is good. And then I'm going to make it so that we get ready to clone them as well. Because if I just have one robot, it's not going to be so much fun. If I have a billion robots heading my way, I'm going to have a lot more fun blowing them up. So when the flag is clicked, same thing as the fireball. We hide our character, and then we add another block for when we start off as a clone. When I start off as a clone, I'm going to randomize my position, but instead of being completely random, because I don't want to spawn right next to my character. It's not much fun if the robot starts and is right next to my character. I want to make it so that instead of coming straight back towards me, I'm going to have him hang around in the upper portion of the screen. How do I do that? Well, all you have to do is make it go to a random position, but then we want to limit the Y value. So how do I do that? I go to set Y. Set Y to, and then I'm going to make it somewhere between 0 and 160 for me. You can adjust it as much as you want. 0 and 160. So here, pick random, and then I'll go 0, 160. When I start as a clone, we go to a random position. That way it's going to go to like zap right to a random position, but then I'm going to limit the Y value so that it doesn't accidentally crash into Kieran and surprise me too much. I don't want that to happen. I want this game to be sort of fair as possible. And then I'm going to change the look of it so that I show, and now it is going to start meandering around floating around in space. I also want to make it so that I set my rotation style so that it doesn't turn around. So set rotation style. Let's make it don't rotate. That way, it's not going to twist around and turn around. All right, it's looking pretty good. Now all I have to do is make a forever loop. And then we're going to, well, hold on. Also need to set point in a random position. So somewhere between 1 and 360. And even though we are pointing into a random direction, it's not going to show on the robot because of my set rotation style to don't rotate. Just because I'm not showing my rotation doesn't mean it doesn't rotate. It still rotates, it just doesn't show it on the graphic. Now all I have to do is make it move. So move, say 2 steps, and then turn a random amount of degrees. Excuse me. Probably heard my dinner there. Let's say -8 to 8 degrees. And then if it touches the edge, we want to bounce back. So go back into the motion blocks. If on edge, bounce. And that is only when it starts as a clone, okay? So remember in our first advanced lesson, we talked about who is responsible for cloning our characters. Who is going to be responsible for making our characters pop in and pop out? Well, we can't make it on our actual clone because then we're going to have a clone that's cloning itself, that's also cloning itself, that's also cloning itself. So I need to remove the responsibility of cloning that character from that character. I need someone else on the outside telling the robot when to clone itself. So do I put it onto our main character? Do I put the code onto Kieran? Well, it doesn't make sense for Kieran to decide when the robots come out. Even though it's the main character, it's not a proper way to make your code responsible for that. Because Kieran is the player. We want to have a game master, someone or something that is sitting on top of the whole game and deciding when to level up, when to give you points, and when to spawn the baddies. So if we're not putting the code on the robot, we're not coding on Kieran, and we're definitely not coding on the bullet, where else can we code? We code on the backdrop. And that is why we are going to now code the spawn of our robots on the backdrop. And understanding how and why we do it is important because otherwise, when you build more and more important, bigger, more complicated games, you won't understand why we do that. So that's why I'm going to the backdrop, which is going to act as our dungeon master or game master. It's going to say what the score is and also when we are spawning our baddies. So here we're going to repeat 10 times. Each time we're going to wait a second before we launch a clone of the retro robot, okay? And that's when we hit the go flag. Let's test it out. The go flag, and then we got baddies starting to spawn. Oh yes, yes, this is looking really good now. You see, the baddies keep on coming. Kieran can move, and fireballs are shooting. But we're not done yet because the fireballs are going straight through our robots. We need to make it so that we can destroy those robots. Okay, so let's pause the game. Let's hit that stop button. We're going to go back into our sun. Okay, now right now we have a code that says that we keep on moving until we touch the edge, and then when we touch the edge we delete the clone. We're going to make another one that says that when we touch a robot we also delete the clone. Okay, so repeat until, and then we're going to say if we are touching a robot. We also delete the clone, but not straight away. We need to wait 0.1 seconds. I'm going to tell you why in a moment, before we delete the clone. If I delete the clone straight away, I will lose the code that is inside my my sprite, my fireball. Okay? And if I delete myself straight away, and then when it's time for the robot to check if it's being touched by a fireball, it might have already disappeared. And then it won't be able to tell that it got hit by a fireball, which is why we wait for 0.1 seconds, because our code runs at like thousands of times every second. When we give ourselves 0.1 seconds to have a delay, we're going to be able to detect and make sure that we are touching before we delete and annihilate both things, both the robot and the fireball. Okay, so that's the fireball code. What about our poor robot? Our poor robot is going to kablooey. We're going to go into here. We're going to say if it is touching a fireball, also we unalive ourselves. Touching the sun, but only after we wait for 0.1 seconds. And we delete ourselves. Okay? Check this out. Now we have a proper fireball game. Check that out. All right. Game's looking pretty good. But now we also need to add this idea of a Boolean in order to see if we are continuing to live and continue shooting, or if the robot touches us and then we make our character lose the game. Okay, we want to make it so that if our robot is touching the sun, then we are going to explode. But if our robot touches our character Kieran, what's going to happen? Well, here, Kieran, we're going to add some code onto Kieran now. And because Kieran has had a fun time without even needing a go flag event, we're going to give it a go flag event. And then we're going to make it so that in a forever loop, if we accidentally touch a robot, we lose the game. Okay? So if we are touching a retro robot, we lose the game. How though? How do we make it so that we lose the game? We are going to make an event, and also we're going to make it so that this event triggers a Boolean. The Boolean is going to be a check on if something is true or false. And in Scratch, we're going to make it so that this Boolean is using an operator to see if something is equal to or more than or less than something. It's going to usually be a number. If this number is more than 0 or less than 0 or equal to 1 or equal to 2 or something like that, that can be used as a Boolean instead of true or false, which is used in Python or C++. If we are touching the retro robot, we are going to create an event. We're going to broadcast an event. New message. Game over. Okay. Going to broadcast event, game over. What does game over do? Game over is going to make it so that we can't move Kieran. We can't move Kieran, but also we want our retro robots and the bullets to just disappear. So broadcast game over. And then we'll say here, retro robot. When I receive the event game over, we also delete all the clones. Inside the bullets, when I receive game over, we delete all our clones as well. How about the backdrop? When I receive game over for the backdrop, we should stop cloning, which is why we need to make sure that we now have a flag to see if this game is equal or less than 1. 1 means it is playing, 0 means it's not playing. Okay, so variable, okay, game playing. I'm going to set this game playing value to 1. 1 means that the game is playing. If it's not playing, if it's equal to 0 for any reason, then we stop spawning characters. Okay, so here, if else. If, oh, we don't need an else, we'll just use an if. If game playing is equal to 1, so this is our flag, remember? This is a Boolean checking to see if this game is alive. If this Boolean, game playing, is equal to 1, then we continue spawning robots. But if I have already beaten the player, I don't need to spawn any more robots. So I don't want to be spawning continuously. But how am I going to change this game value? All I have to do is make it so that this is also controlled by that same game over event. When I receive game over, what do? I set the game playing to 0. All right. Does that make sense? Let's go into Sun. Same thing. When I start as a clone, I do all this stuff, but I shouldn't be cloning myself if it's game over. I need to go back to Kieran now. When space key is pressed, I need to check if game is still alive, right? If game is playing. So event, so here I check if game playing equals 1. Then we clone ourselves. And same thing for all of our key presses. That makes it so that we check for a flag to see if the game is still being played. If it's not, if the game is over, we want to make sure that everything freezes and we can't continue playing. Another thing we can do to make sure that this fully freezes the game is you go into backdrop, and then also you go control, and then you can go to stop all. Now, I don't like using stop all because sometimes you might want to add like a sad music or something like that at the end of a game. You don't want to actually stop everything. You just want to stop the gameplay, and then maybe you want to play a little animation or a countdown timer to say, do you want to continue playing? Or you might want to add some music. So I don't really like stop all, but that can be a way to forcefully stop all the code. Let's have a look. So you can see I'm playing. See if I can deliberately lose the game first. Oh, lose the game. Oh, hold on. One more robot spawned. Let's have a look at our stuff here. When I start as a clone, forever, if touching sun. When I start as a clone. Here's why. Because we're waiting for 1 second before we create the clone, after we checked it, that's why it's making it so that it's sometimes the game will finish but still have a robot spawn. That's not a really good place to be. Hello, Sammy. What are you doing?
I don't know how to make this longer.
Well, Sam, where's the start of your? Well, your body of your story should be like that long. It has to be action, bit by bit.
Then how am I going to do 3 pages?
Well, you're going to have to talk more detailed. You need to go keep on working on it. I want you to read another story if you can't write it longer and use that as an example of how people make the story longer. Okay? All right. So all we have to do to fix this is to go remove the wait block from that and then put it just before the check. And that's it. Okay? So if I play that now and see that my character, as soon as it touches a robot, touch the robot, game finishes, and no more clones. And my character will not be able to move no matter what I press. Okay, so that is how we use Booleans to make sure that our game or our program can check and make sure that game is running, or any other kind of facet of your game to be able to determine if something should be happening or not. Okay. In normal programming in Python or in C++, we would use Booleans. We would use true or false. In Scratch, because there is no true or false value, we use operators to check if something is equal or more than or less than something. And that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today. If you have any questions, make sure you post it into the chat or in comments or send me a message through email. Okay. If you also have a creation that you've created from this lesson, then please send me an example of it and I'll feature you next time if you want me to share it. Okay, that's it from me today. I hope you have fun. I'll see you later. Bye bye.